it's kind of an all or nothing. You kind of have to pull from everywhere in order to stay inspired. Inspiration comes from everywhere, but we often will look outside of our industry to kind of see what's fresh, what's happening with some of these kind of bigger companies, bigger industries, bigger verticals, to kind of understand, where do we need to go to kind of stay on the cutting edge.
All right. Welcome back.
Indeed.
Here we are, episode 2, ready to roll.
And so excited.
I'm excited to talk today about how to stay ahead of the curve in event planning because there's so much out there. There's so much to consider when you're creatively thinking about an event. And we have a huge team that is constantly staying ahead of what's going on and candidly making us all look good, right?
Right.
So I thought we could talk a little bit today about, how things have changed, where they are today, and how we are able to stay on the ball as we move into the future of event planning and what that really looks like. So a big piece of that really tends to come from research, right? We're all always on the pulse. We sit and we scroll on our phones and we're always looking at what's out there and what's going on in the world so we can get inspired. Ashley, tell me what are your initial go-to places when you have that extra free time?
Yeah. Oh, so much free time, right? I mean, I think honestly, inspiration comes from everywhere and, yes, everything is kind of, digital these days in terms of what is available for you on your phone. Some of the blogs I follow, Skiff Meetings is one of my faves. It really has everything from wellness to industry news, event management. It's really kind of well-rounded and I think provides a great resource for us to understand what is impacting some of our event planners themselves, which I think is really helpful. And that kind of helps us to navigate the conversations and really understand what are the pulse points that we need to focus on, right? What are the successes that our event planners are looking for and what are some of the stresses, right? So that we can get ahead of the curve there. I don't know. What about you, Kara? What's kind of on the pulse of your
I pull from everywhere. Obviously, we don't have a huge amount of free time, but when we do, I do find myself scrolling. But I also find myself scrolling and collaborating with different people on the team and seeing what they're scrolling and seeing too, right? So, I would say my primary tool is Instagram, generally speaking. But, TikTok has taken probably more of my attention than Facebook these days. And the new sort of spinoff Lemonade that they have is another place where there's a lot of interesting lifestyle content that can really be translated into a particular brand or event experience that we're trying to create. I think that, what I find really fun is working with different, I have the pleasure of working with different creative services managers on the CSI team on different projects. Almost every day of the week, I'm working with a different person and where they each pull from is slightly different. So they follow different people from around the world, different event planners, or just different lifestyle people. And you're getting inspired in different ways. And then confession, we steal ideas from our competitors.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, we obviously follow our competitors. We know what they're doing. We like to be ahead of the trends and, setting those precedents. But, we scroll, we see something and we're inspired by it. We look at how we can duplicate it or how we can make it even better, right?
Yeah, or do our version of it,
exactly,
right? Because, that's flattery, right? We always are flattered when someone sees something we do really cool and wants to do a version of it themselves as well. But, I think what's important is always taking a spin of it and making it the CSI version instead of exactly how a competitor did it. But I'm not afraid to admit it.
Yeah.
Here we are.
And I think it's interesting that you mentioned TikTok. It's literally the most engaging social media platform out there. It's got an incredible engagement rate, higher than any of the other social platforms. Followed not so closely by Instagram, but confession, if I can say, we're kind of late to the game in building our presence on TikTok, but we need to be there because it is really a top social media platform, especially for Gen Z.
Right.
And we need to invest our time there because we see that people are going there to look for things and to get inspired. I think about it, if I was looking for inspiration for something that I was interested in, I'm going to go to TikTok first. I'm going to go there versus all of the other, opportunities. So yeah, it's kind of crazy that that's becoming the go-to as we continue to, stay ahead of the curve. So
yeah, and some of our really talented Gen Zers are all over TikTok with a ridiculous following that they each have that we're trying to utilize and bring to the table to expand our portfolio, because we know that the demographic of our event planner, our client right now, is changing. And it's not just the 40-something female that it was for many years. Right. It is a huge range of different types of people from all different ages, and people at younger ages are getting bigger seats at the table and having a voice with their stakeholders to be able to make decisions. And those are the people that are looking at TikTok, not at Facebook.
Yeah.
And I still think LinkedIn is a incredibly valuable resource. Knowing that we're in the business to business space, LinkedIn is like the number one place to really drive business content. So I still find myself, when I do have a really interesting engagement on LinkedIn, I find myself putting much higher value on it and credibility. And when I'm trying to do some more statistical research and I'm thinking about, more hard numbers and true data, LinkedIn tends to be my go-to for that type of information. So I think it's interesting. We can pull different things from different types of platforms. As we all know, they all specialize in different things. But what I like about LinkedIn, and where I think CSI is going with LinkedIn, is that we're going directly to our audience every time.
For
basically.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the goal with LinkedIn, because it is our biggest, platform in terms of, our engagement, in terms of our reach, it's really there as a thought leadership space, right? So we want to drive content to LinkedIn that is talking about the trends, right? Talking about the things that are impacting our business. And that's really the key there. So yeah, I mean, I think it's just incredible that like you said, you have all these social media platforms that provide all these different opportunities. But, I think the engagement is incredible across the board. We just have to kind of touch everything so that we can make sure that we're staying ahead of the curve.
Totally. Give me some examples, if you have any off the top of your head, of something you've pulled from, let's say, LinkedIn or another social media platform, maybe something that another experiential marketing company was doing that you, I don't want to say stole, but you adapted and saw a way to utilize for CSI.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of like pop culture experiential marketing campaigns that we're seeing across the board, and something that resonated with me, not necessarily from a social media platform, but engaged me to follow along to kind of see what they're doing on social media is, a lot of these like stunts and guerrilla tactics that we're seeing. I went to the Experiential Marketing Summit in Las Vegas earlier this year. It was an incredible opportunity. And we heard from a marketing executive at Shipt. And they did an incredible activation at South by Southwest where they basically infiltrated downtown Austin, dished out useful freebies designed to provide quote unquote relief as people were waiting in these incredibly long lines.
Right.
And kind of, created this motorized cruising coolers or shopper choppers throughout the space that, were these oversized grocery carts. And basically they roamed around the city. And they basically operated like brand ambassadors who distributed festival essentials like cold energy drinks, sunglasses, sunscreen, fans. And I think it was interesting because I now follow Shipt on all of my social media platforms
because
because I'm interested in how they're going to continue to create this experiential marketing opportunity. And it inspires me because essentially what we do as a company is provide these experiential opportunities for our clients. So to get inspired there with what they're doing, it was just really revolutionary to kind of see what they're doing and then think about it from okay, how do we leverage this within our space? So, I think it's just, there's inspiration everywhere, right?
So what I think is, taking this a step further, we get all this inspiration, and then what do we do with it? How do we apply it? How do we bring it to life in our markets and make it impactful? So, for example, I had a client that said, I did X, Y, and Z in this city, or I saw X, Y, and Z at this show. Do you have that in Boston, or do you have a version? So here's an example of as simple as a robotic photo booth. Like, there's so many different photo booths out there.
Sure.
We love photo booths. We think they're, an integral part of the, networking moment inside an event. But We've seen a lot of AI photo booths and 360s and glamour booths and all these different variations. But we're doing a lot of tech forward. We're working with a lot of tech companies. We're working with a lot of companies that are promoting that they're forward thinking. And so a robotic photo booth was something that was requested of one of our clients. And we reached out to our local vendor in that particular market and said, I know you don't have this in your portfolio currently. The event's not for 3 months. Can you get it in your portfolio by then?
Yeah.
And they were like, that's all we needed to hear. If people want it, we'll buy it. We'll bring it to market. We've got counterparts in other destinations that, can make sure that we're getting the right equipment and setting it up, and we'll test drive it on a, small event for your team and all of these wonderful things so that we can do it successfully. For, this particular event that was asking for it. With that, I posted some pictures of it on my social media page, and I actually ran into a client last week who said, hey, what was that robot thing I saw in your story last month? I think I need it for an event coming up. Can you send me more information? And it's like, that's how it all works, right? So I think we always have to push our local vendors to, work in the inspiration that we have.
Sure.
And take it a step further, right? So, how many carnival style events do we do throughout the year? All different variations of carnivals. We do winter carnivals, summer carnivals, 1920s carnivals, you name it, right? And we in the Boston area, we were, selling these carnivals, and a lot of them had brandable, components to them. So you could put your CEO's head on something and, aim for it or whatever the situation might be.
Hey, that sounds actually a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, for the certain group, it worked.
Yeah.
But we challenged our partner and said, we can do carnivals anywhere. And we do carnivals everywhere. Across the country, we're doing these carnivals. How are we making a carnival experience that is Boston for these people coming to Boston one time every 10 years to create an experience that is exclusively Boston? And our vendor partner said, give me a month or two. I'm going to work with my production team. And they built all these custom Boston themed carnival games, swan boat races across the, instead of the ball throwing games, they had baseballs that you threw at Fenway Park, and they really curated 5 different carnival games that were Boston themed. And let me tell you, those have been selling off the charts so much more than our standard carnival games because they are a Boston experience.
Exactly.
And in that market, that's what sells. So I think taking the inspiration, okay, carnival, we can get inspired by beautiful carnivals across the world and follow them on Instagram and all those things. But how do we take that and curate it for a corporate event in our destination that doesn't feel the same as being somewhere else in the world? So those are just some examples of taking it and kind of applying it a little bit more. So those types of things came about because we have these conversations with our trusted vendor partners, right? So our partners we work with day in and day out. They see the value in investing in us with new content, and we see the value in having these conversations with them and brainstorming. Let's talk about brainstorming and what that means, because I find brainstorming to be so valuable, and people have different styles, right? When I have a big opportunity, sometimes I'll grab 5 or 6 different people that come from different walks of life. I'll put them all in we use Teams, a Teams call, and just, spitball, give them as much information as I can about what the project is and, see what comes out. And some people, they take a couple days to digest the information, and then all of a sudden they come back with all this really interesting content. Other people are like, I've got this right off the spot, and they, start rattling ideas, and everyone works a little bit differently, but just having the platform to start the conversation and to open it up to maybe people that aren't necessarily going to be in the weeds of that project all the way through, but are going to be valuable in creating the experience has been really beneficial. And I think that's why sometimes when we think about, how we sell at CSI, having this really in-depth creative services team that has people from all walks of life and from all over the country, and bringing them into these projects can be really, really interesting. So how have you seen brainstorming on your end? Because in the marketing world, obviously, we're always trying to collaborate and create new content and create new marketing events that are telling stories and fresh.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's great. You mentioned our creative services team. They're just truly top notch. And we lean on them a lot from a marketing inspiration perspective because they're creating these incredible proposals for all of our clients, bringing in the latest technology, bringing in the latest entertainment, the latest, opportunity for brand engagement. So we look to them for a lot of inspiration, and they're readily available. Like you said, we can hop on a call. They're there. They love to brainstorm. So we lean on them for a lot of inspiration. And I think additionally, we try to really stay at the pulse of kind of what's happening outside of our market. Like you said, inspiration comes from everywhere, but, we often will look outside of our industry to kind of see what's fresh, what's happening with some of these kind of bigger companies, bigger industries, bigger verticals, to kind of understand, where do we need to go to kind of stay on the cutting edge. And like I mentioned, we try to attend trade shows. We try to stay at the pulse of everything. But it's kind of an all or nothing. You kind of have to pull from everywhere in order to stay inspired. But I think we have an incredible opportunity just to really continually learn from each other.
Totally. And where I've had a lot of fun with it too is when I talk to a client and they say, my audience for this particular event is 25 to 30 years old. I say, okay, great. The 5 people I want to bring into this brainstorm, I want them all to be 25 to 30 years old. And instead of, gifting maybe, luggage tags like we've gifted a million times, maybe let's gift them engraved Dior lip gloss because that's the trendiest lip gloss, around, as an example, right? So, having those conversations about what would they actually want at the event because they are the audience. And we have them on our team. Let's use them, right? Yeah. So I think too, the other piece of it is really understanding what your clients are asking for and what is their goal and what is a way that we can not just do an event, but really take it to the next level. So we spend a lot of time researching our individual customers when we get an opportunity from them to understand where are they in the marketplace? Are they thriving? Are they struggling? Are they putting out really interesting commercials right now? Or are they, in a place where they are really shifting their marketing dollars somewhere else? And so we just did a big event for a luxury real estate company that I know you had the pleasure of attending. And I asked one of the managers of the creative services team sort of how did the designer of that event get inspired to really flip it upside down and not just have a regular event, but take the idea of a real estate company and really walk the attendees through house as the experience. Instead of just a ballroom, it becomes, the kitchen area and the living room and the things like that. And, she joked and said, it hits you at 3 a.m, right? You're going through and through the website of these companies. You're totally trying to put yourself in the shoes of the attendee. You're trying to put yourself in the shoes of an executive from that team who's going to be reviewing this proposal. And sometimes it just hits you when you least expect it. And you're like, wait a second, why am I giving them a ballroom and a traditional event when what they're used to is a house because they're in real estate. So it was a really good use of a 3 a.m. moment, right?
For sure.
That we've all had.
Yeah. If you could look at my notes in my phone, you'd probably be terrified at what kind of pops in your head at those kind of middle of the night moments. And you just write it down really quickly because you're excited to share it. That event was incredible. And I think it was truly the inspiration was pretty simple at the end of the day, but it was so well done and so inspired that it was incredible to see. And I got to watch it unfold. From the beginning of the day until the attendees walked through, quote unquote, the door, because there was a giant door that they walked into this house.
I want to take one more example from pop culture.
For sure.
Inspiration. Because it's more than just social media. I think there's a lot of reality TV that we all watch nowadays. For sure. And I'm guilty of it. Confession, I still watch Survivor. I still watch The Challenge MTV. And yes, I know there's a few others of you out there that do too, because it comes up on my site visits sometimes. And I have a whole little group of friends that we all talk about CT and all of our favorite challengers. Anyways, a lot of our clients tend to be Bravo lovers. And I think we pulled inspiration from Bravo TV shows the most, which is kind of fun. But the most recent one was, I don't know if you ever watched Vanderpump Rules. I'm sure there's someone out there that's excited to hear me talk about it. But they had a water sommelier, and a couple people on the show have stopped drinking alcohol. They're very much into the mocktail, which is incredibly on trend right now. And they brought in a water sommelier to do a experiential dinner where they kind of got to understand how water different types of water can change the palate and pH and ice cubes and all the experiences around water. And we actually, one of our talented creative designers found a water sommelier that will travel and come to any of our events and do this wellness experience. They'll do it with a dinner experience. They'll do it with a hospitality suite moment. And I just had a client, we had a call last week and we said, here's this idea. It's a little bit, out there, but it certainly touches on some of the things that you asked for, which were wellness. And we're in Colorado Springs for the event. So with the altitude and the oxygen levels, having, a little extra water as probably a focus of attention was important. And they absolutely went nuts for it. And we're bringing in this water sommelier and we're going to do it as a sort of a hospitality suite where they can come at their own leisure over the course of a couple hours and have this sort of personalized water moment. But I can see that really taking off more and more. And that's just a moment of, okay, we saw something cool on a TV show and we found somebody that can actually do it really well and we vetted them and we are bringing it to life in a destination and making it tie into that destination all at the same time. So
that's amazing. I think it's also interesting too. I mean, talking about inspiration, I think we're also inspired by other people's journeys and paths forward, right? So in this wellness space, we're seeing a lot of our clients say, like you said, I'm not drinking alcohol anymore. I've decided that I don't want to do that for my lifestyle.
Right.
And so we've been doing some really cool engagement with our clients in terms of like mocktail competitions and bringing in like a zero proof,
Talk through the mocktail competition that we just did in Las Vegas because that was pretty cool and really well received.
Yeah, very well received. So we worked with Smart Meetings, which everyone should know. Incredible opportunity for us to partner with them. We brought in Zero Proofed. Our Las Vegas team engaged with them to kind of come in and do this incredible mocktail competition. Everyone divided up into teams. They put together these, cocktails. They got to pick out all of their ingredients, botanicals and different inspiration. And then, our team actually was the ones that judged the competition. So it was a really fun opportunity for an industry event. A little bit of a different turn. We've had the cocktail making classes or the cocktail competitions, but they took it in a different direction and largely inspired by the feedback that they were getting from their clients that, hey, this could be a really great opportunity for us to change this up and to really meet our attendees where they are with the things that they're interested in. So I think, something like that is something kind of simple when you think about it, but again, goes back to it's inspired by what people are doing with their lives right now. So it was a really, really incredible opportunity.
Absolutely. And I just think creativity is the number one thing we're investing in at CSI right now.
Absolutely.
And we recently had a leadership meeting in Orlando a few weeks back. And we got together with all the director level and higher at the company. And we spent 2 days like deep diving into what, minor improvements we could make to all of our processes, process. It's certainly something you think about a lot when you go from a smaller company to a much larger company and making it all fluid. But what really was interesting to me that came out of the whole 2-day was an overarching theme, which we sort of put into practice now as sort of our year-long underlying theme and underlying messaging as we move into a continuously growing company. And that is creative confidence. Yeah. We want to instill creative confidence in every layer at CSI, and we want to push that from the leadership down. And I didn't expect that to be what came out of those 2 days. Like I said, we were on systems and processes and SOPs all day. And we had a lot of other really, really good dialogue and panels and networking events. But when the full circle moment happened at the end, that was creative confidence. It was so exciting that that's what we're going to be really making our next year-long journey about, because I think we're going to continue to invest in not just our creative services managers, but every single person on the team is part of the creative process at CSI. We're creatively thinking of solutions when we're on operations on site. We're creatively working on unique sales incentives and sales opportunities when we're in the account executive side. I mean, we're even getting creative on the transportation team with how can we make this bus, be a part of the branding moment, and how can we also utilize this bus as many times throughout the 3 days because now it's part of the branding moment, right? So we're just pushing creativity really in a way that I haven't seen before. And I think that when people think of CSI, I'm really hoping that this next, 12 months, they start thinking about creative confidence and the creativity that CSI is bringing in every single event that we produce. So I'm really excited about that. And as an overall theme for really what we were talking about today, I just think creativity is, the future of DMCs.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was inspiring. And I think, just to feel like everyone was really bought into the idea of like, this is the direction that we need to go. It was really incredible.
Because a lot of times we talk about creativity a lot, but the ops people don't necessarily make it at forefront of their agendas.
And hearing, we had accounting in the room, we had HR in the room, and hearing that messaging and understanding that everyone's kind of buying into this was really incredible. It was very transformational. So.
Yeah, I know. They even said, how can we get more creative in our accounting process? Yeah. It's like, how can we get more creative with Salesforce? Like, there's so many ways that we can take creativity and just maximize what we're doing and make a bigger impact for our clients at the end of the day. So
Absolutely.
In true confession, I
Lay it on me.
Well, in true confession, I used to think that I was one of the most creative people in the room and my ideas were the best. And what I think I've learned over my leadership journey is how incredibly talented everyone else is. And if I just shut my mouth for a few minutes and listen to their ideas, we're going to go a lot further.
I'm going to hold you to that, Kara.
So I learn it every day. And I will say, though, Event Planner Confessions, it takes a village to create. And we have such talented creators.
Yeah, we do.
It's amazing.
We're really lucky. Yeah, I think it's going to be incredible as we continue to move forward and continue to grow. That creative confidence. I think it's going to be really the impact that makes a big impression in our industry. So.
I totally agree, Ashley. This has been a lot of fun. Creativity is one of my favorite things to talk about.
I feel like we could talk for many more minutes.
We could go down rabbit holes on every specific event trend that we're seeing. But I think at the end of the day, every client's looking for a different set of trends to hit their event. And hopefully we've touched a few different things that get you inspired to support your next project when you're planning your next event.